mainstream schools. All those children, it's clear that all those children cannot come to St. John's.
No.
Because it is not a boarding institution. And then parents probably do not have relatives that are around here to take care of those children. And probably the teachers do not have, the school doesn't even have the capacity to take all those children on board. Now those children in those mainstream schools or that are not even in school need to go to school. Because if you are talking about education for all and you don't include all this group of children, and there's no way you would achieve education for all. Now those children need to be in schools. So that is why we are advocating for those children to be in schools where their families are. And it's not just a matter of just putting them in schools. It's about putting in things in place to help those children. Like I said earlier, there are children that cannot get access to the full curriculum unless there are supportive services. So there is a need for those children in all the regions, region 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, to get access to schools. And then so that there would be things put in place in the form of equipment, trained teachers, and all those things put in place so that those children will benefit from the curriculum. Because if we are saying that we are waiting until such time that we have special schools in all these regions, we would wait for a long time because it's really expensive to build a special school. So what we are thinking of mainstreaming those children, fully including them into the schools where they are, and then provide support in the form of itinerant teachers. Those are teachers who are trained to go around and are responsible for a cohort of students, and they go around to help those students in the schools, whether they are visually impaired, hearing impaired, learning difficulties, and so on. But we will still, considering the fact that there would be some that have severe learning difficulties, come up with resource centers in all these regions where those children who are severely handicapped or those that need more help could go to those resource centers to get help. So coming to your questions about those children that were in special schools and are now, the point is those that are in special schools and have transited and are now, because eventually when they finish GOVI, they go to the mainstream schools anyway. So it's a matter of introducing it as early as possible. Because the point is there was a lot of focus on those with visual impairment because we had a national teaching program supported by Sight Savers, which is operational in regions 1, 2, and 3 that takes care of those children with visual impairment. But now the focus is not just on visual impairment, but all other areas of disability. That is why we are training teachers to be able to handle those children in those mainstream schools and give them the support at home in their own communities to help them and so that they would get the best out of the curriculum.
Yeah, I think that is well said and explained by Miss Anna Nancy Mende, that they have been there. They have been there for quite a long time. Kids or children that have been sidelined on the other side of the society or environment, where they have been put on a different issue. But now, in this case, not only going to GOVI or either going to St. John's School for the Deaf, but the government of the Gambia is planning or have already set in place this framework that will bring back them to the mainstream society and take them to the schools that they will learn and then join their sisters and brothers so that they can learn. That will get me back to Mr. Karam Moketa, the Associate Director of ISRA. Mr. Keta, this is a nationwide thing that's talking about from Banyu to Koina. How do you go about identifying these kids from their families and then taking them to the schools, maybe from the nursery or to the primary school again? How do you identify these children?
Well, thank you very much. I think there are a series of processes. Nancy rightly said there was a disability survey in 1998. And in 2003, when we had the national census, we included questionnaires on disability. That 1998 was a survey, and in the 2003, that was a nationwide census. And more recently, we went to schools, including madrasas, to find out, I mean, from one class to the other, how many children have difficulties in seeing, hearing, physical, and all the other conditions. I mean, we had an indication as to how many children we are talking about. Because if you want to plan in terms of implementing or in terms of expanding services, it is important that you have a gist of what you are supposed to be serving in terms of number. And I think that was one of the exercise that we did. Based on that information, I mean, the Minister of Basic and Secondary Education will look at the implications of expanding the services. As Nancy rightly said, we have the integrated education program in regions 1 and 2 and 3. And the focus now would be, if we want to talk about expanding special needs education to all the country, all parts of the country, that information is very important. But it is important that we have special needs children in all parts of the country for your information. So irrespective of where they are in terms of, I mean, regional representation, we have children in all parts of the country.
Yeah, that is to say, as he said, there are only 3 schools in the whole of the Gambia that deals with these special needs children. So now is to decentralize and then get them back to the society where they belong to or where they live, so that they can grow up from there, learn, and then join society. They can all contribute to national development.
Yes, as we rightly speak to you, there are children mainstream in schools. And I think Nancy has made it very clear that there are different categories of disabilities. You have the mild, the moderate, and the severe one. Mm-hmm. The ones that cannot be mainstream in schools across the country, because we have limited resource special schools, and I don't think the focus now is to have more special schools, because as Nancy rightly said, it's not sustainable. There are a lot of implications, the manpower, the resources, and all the others. So what we want to be looking at regional level is to have resource centers that would support the cause, and there you will have the itinerant teachers who will work with teachers in mainstream schools to support children with severe disability who will be mainstream in normal schools. Mm-hmm. That is the thinking as of now, and I think it's one of the best strategies that we can have for the time being.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think Mrs. Manny, we've seen these people coming back to society, and they're joining society day to day, in and out, and they are developing. We've seen some of them are even singers, some sing, and then some also are joining in like contributing their own quota to national development. And I think it's a good initiative that has the Ministry of Basic Education, where you work for, come with. But then to come again, what special thing do you think is in this policy framework?
Okay, thank you very much. Like I said, the policy framework unpacked what was written with regards to special needs education in national policy, that is the 2004 to 2015 policy. The 2004 to 2015 clearly spells out that there should be a responsive, relevant quality education for all Gambians. Mm-hmm. And when we talk about all Gambians, it is not excluding anyone. So this policy looks at the background information with regards to what is written on the education policy with regards to special needs education. Mm-hmm. It also looks at some of the policy priorities that we have on special needs education, which includes inclusive early identification, assessment, and appropriate placement. It looks at some key priorities that would be looked at with regard to special needs education. It further looks at what was the key the situation, mm-hmm. like situational analysis with regard to special needs education as at the time of development of this policy. It also